Wewe ni Mkenya, pigania nchi yako, pigania haki zako kama Mkenya.
Hello and welcome to the Wanawa Kenyan Journey podcast. My name is Wanjiru Kenywa. Well, the Wanawa Kenyan Journey podcast is brought to you by Crown Trust, and Crown Trust is a change catalyst providing African women and girls with the voices they need to effect changes in their family life, individual life, national life, and every other life that, Well, under Crown Trust, we have different thematic areas, and why we are here is because we have a theme called socio-economic empowerment, under which we have climate, and I guess that is why we are here to talk about climate, because it's the world ending. Yeah. And with me in the studio today, I have two guests. Right here, we start with the ladies first, kama kawaida.
Okay.
Okay, we have Winnie, and we have Winnie Kinoti, and we have Edwin Odhiambo. Well, Winnie Kinoti will introduce herself. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much. My name is Winnie Kinoti. I'm a policy and advocacy officer at Crown Trust. I'm also a women's champion and a youth leader. So yes, I'm very excited to expound and talk about climate because it's something that affects us every day and our everyday livelihood. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And the man of the hour.
Thank you. I think whenever we are the minority in the room, we need to always start.
Now, do you want us to show them behind the cameras? Do you want us to? Okay.
I'll withdraw my statements. My name is Edwin Odhiambo. An environmental and urban planner. I run an organization by the name Youth and Urbanism. We are trying to shape urban centers for children and young people. And within this whole conversation of trying to plan, build, and govern urban centers, at the core of it, of course, is climate change and how it's affecting our urban growth. So I'm here and happy to talk about this topic here.
Okay. When you talk about urban, I remember in social studies, courses of I don't know what in Kenya. And number one problem was urbanization. Yes, it was in primary school.
Okay, that's
number one problem was
urbanization,
right?
Yeah.
But mostly we are here to talk about two things, but mostly water privatization. Before Tatwende Mbali, is the world coming to an end? Because there is water privatization, there is food sovereignty, there is, we need to inject our cows, we don't know what. Is the world ending? Is Kenya ending? From a climate perspective.
By world, I don't know what you mean, but if you mean Earth, Earth will just be fine.
Okay, so planet Earth.
Planet Earth will just be fine. But will we be fine
if the planet ends?
It's not ending, of course, but will we be fine in the new environment that will be there? Maybe it will end up all desert. Will we be okay? Because it will be there, yes, but it might be a desert. It might be Mars.
Oh, my God.
So
Kinoti.
From my end, I'll say, is the world ending? I think what we should be talking about is how will humans adapt to the new climate conditions that we are setting ourselves up for. What does it mean if the icebergs are melting? What kind of viruses are we going to experience? If the temperatures are going high, how is the fungi adapting? And how will the fungus affect us, the human population? I think the questions should be, because the Earth will replenish itself. It always does after the ice age, after the continents. You remember the rifts that happened?
Yeah,
it was fine. It continued, but will humans be okay? Are we even okay right now? If we look at what has been happening, are we okay as a people? I don't think we are fine. I think there's just, So as we look out, I think Earth will have its way of refurbishing itself, but will humans be a part of that new Earth that will set itself up? Yeah.
It brings us to the question, because early in the morning today I was having a conversation with someone and we were like, Nairobi is currently very hot. True. Normally we could be able to predict, and December is one of those months that there was rain, there was always rain back then when we were growing up. why is it that, before now we delve into the topic of water privatization, why is it that right now we cannot be able to predict hii season tunaweza panda because it's going to be rainy, or we can harvest on this season because we can't, like the way we used to? What is happening?
So personally, not even personally, we know from a scientific, jamani, it's lost. So from a scientific point of view, or from a climatic point, because of the weather patterns have changed. That is what climate change essentially is. Like the seasons have changed. We used to have fruit season, was around this time, and then January we'll probably plant maize or something. So fruits and most crops had seasons that they could be planted and they could be harvested. But now we don't have that because it's very hard. The weather is very erratic. And this comes to show you that what we've been doing to our planet, or what has been done, the production of plastic, the dumping of plastics in our water bodies, the cutting down of trees to set up skyscrapers. We don't have we've not left space for Earth to just be Earth, you know? And people also, the commercialization of planting, you see, like agriculture, we've commercialized it so much. You see, like if you go to areas like Timau, it's continuous weed planting. When does the earth breathe? You remember Kitambo, if your grandmother was planting maize on this side, there's a space of that land that will be left without being planted anything for some time, just for it to replenish. We don't do that nowadays. And then
there was crop rotation.
Yes, they will rotate. So there was an opportunity coexistence between humans and the earth itself. But now we've lost it. Everything is very commercialized. Everything is all about money. So if you're sand harvesting until there's no sand left to harvest. Like you're really exploiting it. So I think what we are seeing currently is the exploitation of every resource that earth could give us, and not really caring or catering to have it replenish itself, you know, like a continual. So you cut down a tree, you plant 2 or 3, that stopped. So now I don't think I actually know we are suffering the effects of over-exploitation of Earth. So yes, that's why we are seeing those very erratic weather conditions, and I think it will get worse. Yeah, have you seen the snowstorms in South Africa? South Africa never used to snow.
Yes.
It's currently snowing. Shouldn't that be very scary? Nairobi was sometimes Nairobi gets very cold. Like, did I travel? Am I in the States? And I didn't get a memo. So yes, so we should expect more if we continue turning a blind eye to Earth itself. So yeah.
Okay. And is that the reason why sometimes, because of desperation of human beings, because when we overexploit the land, when we overexploit the soil, we are, especially farmers, we are in desperation of getting more resources. So we end up using, fertilizers and altering with the, what is it called, the pH balance of the soil. Yeah. So Edwin, how many people, now getting into the topic of today, how many people in Kenya, like what percentage of people in Kenya have access to clean water?
Very crazy. I was checking at my numbers today and they were around like 52%.
Oh.
Yeah, of the Kenyan population have access to at least water that someone may drink. But rural areas and urban centers suffer even more, especially informal settlements, because of lack of infrastructure. You might have water, but it's like 10 kilometers away.
Yes.
Yeah.
We will consider that you have access to it, but do you really have that access?
You don't have
and
access
how many kilometers do people walk to get to that? The statistics in the recent past have always shown that it's like 1 to 10 kilometers. But within the last 2 years, it increased by 5%. 5 kilometers. So currently people are walking between 1 to 15 kilometers to get, and that's just an average. So average means some might even walk for more distance than others.
And when they're walking, they're just walking with one mtungi.
What? Because how many mtungis will you carry for 15 kilometers,
it has to
right?
be one.
It has to be one. And that's that's a problem. And so when we get to, even people say numbers don't lie, even when we get to numbers, still, I think it should be very evident. But people are just turning a blind eye to those numbers. It's like they're not saying. I could even get deeper to how this is affecting children, and the situation even gets worse.
So we'll come there.
Yeah.
Kinoti, what do these statistics mean, especially to a woman?
So these statistics mean, especially because women are providers of unpaid care, this means that the risk is even bigger. The challenge is even harder because there was some research that was done, or is it a study, on sex for water in the urban areas, in the informal settlements. Like, women will exchange sex for water. That is very dehumanizing. That is very... in today's world, can you imagine? And these are teenagers, these are young girls. So you're looking at a girl in Kibra, where, let's speak on places that we are implementing, and you're starting these organic farms for them, and you're teaching them about climate smart. But this woman gets water, a jerrycan of water, and this water is put in a bucket. So the husband showers first, then the kids, then the woman. You see how, I don't know, how mentally...
It is disturbing.
Debilitating that is, you
It
know?
is very disturbing.
And then when you look at the hygiene of a woman, just physically, once a month there's the periods that come, or even twice a month for some. So can you imagine the hygiene that comes, your hygiene, your personal hygiene, that requires that very water? So water is an actual very big challenge. And when you look at these numbers, it should be very... because we have so many teenagers and very many kids.
Yes.
So this also affects the numbers of teenage pregnancies, because if they are exchanging sex for water, and then water is sold, it is a commodity in Nairobi. It's actually becoming the most sold commodity.
It is.
You meet the very big cars that sell water. At least you'll meet 5 in a day, right?
And
That tells you.
containers.
Yes, that tells you. Areas like Pipeline, when you pass through those areas, all you see is jerrycans in their balconies, right? This already tells you that the situation is there, the situation is bad, because this means this is a human right. So far, that is how it has been put.
What is a human right?
But people cannot access it.
You just like poked an idea, and I was like, I think we just need to have a serious talk about water either being as a right or a commodity or a product.
In
like
today's
some
time,
people
it's a
just look at it as
Yeah.
a commodity that needs to be sold.
Yeah.
But I think based on how we live and how we like dependent to water, it should be a human right. But talking of numbers, you mentioned hygiene and I also talked about people having access to the percentage that is having access to water, to generally having water. And it's very clear that having access to water for girls does not mean that now you have access to sanitation facility.
Thank you. Yeah.
And it drops to 29%. 29% of the Kenyan population.
What do you mean?
29%. They're the only ones that have access to like some, at least a sanitation facility that you will say, okay, I can use this one.
Just to bring some humor to his statement, have you gone to the informal settlement and seen the sanitation that is set up with some big names?
Yeah.
And it's very embarrassing, I'm sorry to say, and I hope this doesn't rub anyone the wrong way, but it's very... Someone came with some big money and built a toilet and a bathroom to be used by about 100 people.
In Mathare, we have a population of, I know Google says 0.6, 0.5, but it's more than that. We're like 0.8, close to 1 point something. And if you look at the sanitation facilities, the way you say it, someone just got money and brought some 2-3 facilities that are now not usable because youths are fighting over them, and now people fear because they're even now unsafe. The communities have found a way to build their own wash facilities along the river, which is a problem because they're channeling all that waste into the rivers. But recently, when there was a government-ordered eviction along the river, what were the facilities found there apart from homes? The wash facilities.
Yes.
Because in the Mathare is a valley, and so you don't expect a wash facility up there. No one has a pipe to. So all the wash facilities were along
the river.
And talking about which, the president recently said that they are targeting to, let me just use quote unquote because quote unquote clean the river, just a section of the river. Is that even possible?
No. Firstly, I'll say I think we are looking at climate change, or where you see in counties we are working as if we're in silos alone. But the river Nairobi crosses along 4 counties. So if the river has to be clean, all the 4 counties have to work hand in hand. So if you can't, so me down here, I'm cleaning, but the person up there, up the river, still has their wash facilities.
Yeah.
So there's channeling into the river. So there's nothing I'm doing down here. So working as if we're in silos, as if you're alone.
Yes.
So there's a forest, but then that forest is in like 5 counties. But then I'm only looking
at
replanting at my county. So I don't think with climate change, actually no, for sure we can't work in silos. We need to open up. So the way we merge and do economically, we need to merge and work the same way when it comes to climate change, because it's not a silo. You can't do it alone. So there's a mountain. The mountain is in 3 counties. We want to protect the streams and the forest around it. You can't do it alone. The director, this county and that county have to merge to work for the good of these particular resources we have. Also, we need to learn how to stop over-exploiting our land. So we did the journey of waters, you remember? And the problem was people were over-harvesting sand. You know, sand assists the water, also filters the water. That also explains why the water nowadays is too dirty. Because the points where there was a lot of sand, you have taken everything. So what is filtering the water? Nothing. So these parts, these seats within the river, we should stop, actually, because we are currently exporting sand. Do you understand how dangerous it is when you commercialize everything?
It is very dangerous.
We are commercializing water, sand. Why are we exporting sand?
Talking about which, remember earlier on in the conversation you talked about water being a commodity as opposed to being a right, which is why I guess we have the issue on why private companies want not to own the waters. What is water privatization? And talking about 29% of people who have access to water, what does water privatization means exactly?
When I talked about, let's get the numbers right, because we may confuse them. Just to be clear.
All right.
59, because I checked them this morning. I even don't know them. They just popped into my... 59% of Kenyan population have access to
water.
Clean water. Water. Let me just say water, because even the rivers are dirty. And 29% of the population have access to facilities, wash facilities, sanitation facilities. Because water with sanitation is almost always
hand in hand.
Are they good sanitation facilities?
Exactly. So when we're talking about privatization, is the government trying to fill in funding gaps? You remember when I said rural and informal settlements at times suffer not because there is no water, but there is no infrastructure to get water to these people, right? And so the first solution that gets into someone's head at the government office is that we need to bring in private sector. Not bad. It's okay if you need help, you need to reach out to get that help, right? So it's not bad to reach out. Private public partnership is something that has existed, and it has solved it has solved some problem. But now the problem is having these partnerships without proper framework and proper consultation with the communities bring problems, because whenever they're drafting these contracts, they're not pro-community, right? If you're going to have a purification company next to our river, you need to prioritize the needs of that community. And this community needs to be involved in this conversation, right? Because if they're not involved, but then you bring some company, I don't know why it's always not a Kenyan company, it's always some companies from abroad being given that task. For them it's about the profit. It's a
Definitely.
it's
Most
profit-driven conversation.
Yes.
It's not community. We are talking about access. For them, it's not about access. For them, it's about how
what is getting into my
the
pocket
margins,
at the end of the day,
right? But if you bring the communities, they will tell you about the access kind of issues. They'll tell you about environment issues. They'll tell you about health issues. But the companies, they want to see graphs in terms of fund money, right? And that's the problem.
Kinoti, where were we? Where were the citizens when? Because I understand that this is something that is already, I think, in the second reading in Parliament, right?
Yes.
And I think there was quote unquote public participation. Was there public participation in the first place? Because when you talk about, when you tell somebody about water privatization, it is a shocker to them. But what do you mean?
Before even you come in, how many people have gone through the amendment, the water amendment bill
Of 2023?
Yeah.
Oh, none. No, so
Actually,
not so
even
many.
no one. Some people even don't know it exists.
They don't even know it exists.
Right.
So personally, I'll say firstly, public participation in our country is a joke, a big joke, because we didn't put proper framework for us to follow. Like after the public participates, then what? How is this incorporated in what we come up with? Most of the time, it's just a couple of people seated, and then they are given the 200, and they're like, yeah, voila, pitisha. But now, which is quite unfortunate. But also, I'll say, when we look at privatization of water, I think we're looking at it from up here, as if it is already happening.
It is.
The fact that there are people with very huge tankers who come to fill your tank with water, where else you still have the piping from your council. What are they called?
Kanjo.
The Kanjo. Yes, that is privatization.
But
right,
but
there,
then-
because that water, that pipage hasn't brought you water for the past 5 years. See? So privatization is, when we speak, I think when we speak to community, now you bring it down to where they actually see it. So water privatization is already happening. The fact that there is someone within your community where you can carry a jerry can, go with 20 shillings and come back with water. Commercialization has happened. The process of privatization has already begun. It's not up here. Up here, what is left is the boardroom members to put signatures. But within the community, me and you can sit down and be like, yeah, but hey, if not for my landlord having a well or what are they?
borehole.
A borehole, yes. Well, borehole, a tank where he brings 2 tankers that fill the tanks up there. That is commercialization of the water, because when it was provided by Kanjo, the bill was way cheaper than it is right now. Because I remember some time ago, we were so many kids in the house, but our water bill will come to around 300.
I mean,
Now 300 cannot pay water bill for just me alone.
I mean, I think all of us stay in rentals, right?
Yeah.
I think one unit at my place is like 135 shillings. A single unit.
Exactly.
Which is among the most affordable
Within
the
locality.
area.
Privatization has happened. So when we have the conversation right now, say, does the community know it happened? It has been happening over the years. Now what is left is for people to sign papers. And when papers are signed, we understand that papers hold power. They also make the precedent within our courts. So that's what we want to discuss. It's not about the privatization, because privatization, commercialization of water has been happening. Because Kitambo, I remember, used to go to taps. You'll come from your play group and then come home, go to the tap, fetch water and drink it. Now where do you get your drinking water today?
You have to buy.
You have to buy. There is a water point. That is commercialization. That is the privatization
And water
of
rationing.
water. You see? Now you know that you have to fill, if you have to fill your inner tank with water, because on Wednesday there is no water within. So that is Now that is the privatization and commercialization of water. Because where are these people who are selling this water getting the water from?
For a very long time, it has always been that you shouldn't be paying for water. You should be paying for whatever the government is. I mean, it's more of like a facilitation fee, right? So if I used to pay like a shilling, I'm not paying for that water. I'm paying for the government to get some money to maintain the pipes, right? And that was fine. I mean,
but to have someone come check your meter from time to time.
So you're not paying for the water, you're just paying for the facilitation, and that should have remained the case. But now, if you look at the prices, you're not just paying for facilitation of and maintenance of those pipes. You're actually even paying for that water.
Yeah.
And why should someone charge? It's like someone has. It means it's just a matter of time before they figure out how they can charge for oxygen. Because water, what is the difference between water?
But I think that's the only remaining thing, actually.
But I actually think we pay for oxygen. Prove me wrong.
How?
Because why? Because right now you've been paying for so many. Let me not mention. I do not want to be quoted. But I'll say currently you're paying to stay alive. Because you pay for everything. Literally everything. You see, Kitambo, you'll go and open someone's tap and drink water. You can't do that. See? It's quite sad to witness like where we have come from. And the fact that there are so many things that are happening around us that sometimes we are desensitized to reality, to a reality that some of these things that you're asked to pay for, you should not pay for.
You should not be paying for them.
Because things that can be sold to you, or things that should be sold to you. I can sell to you this pen because someone took their time
to make it,
design it. But that's why I should make a profit from this. But resources that no one took time to put them where they are, so they are provided by earth.
By nature.
No one or nature. No one should make profit from them. So things like water. And there are a few case studies that we should look at. There's this area where it's cheaper to buy soda than it is to get drinking water.
We're coming to that.
You see?
We're really coming to that, and it's actually my next question. But before we go to that, I want us, the both of you, to narrow down to that person, to our mamas, to that person who is in the most informal sector, and tell them, hii ndio inasemekana water privatization ni hivi na hivi na hivi. Break it down for them. Break it down for all of us. We start with Yukinoti.
So for me, I'll tell them water privatization should very much scare you, because that means if you don't have money, you cannot access it. That's the problem. It's just like what we have done with our hospitals, that if you don't have money, you will not get treated.
You will die.
You will die, and we will actually watch you die, right? Because when we were growing up, we didn't see the number of medical appeals we are seeing in today's time, right? You'll only see like one person within the village. That's it. But today, you know someone who's struggling somewhere to access. So that is what we will be doing to water because we are crossing over to its privatization. That will mean it will be a very expensive commodity, especially for the poor. And in our community currently, most of or the biggest population is one disease away from poverty. So each one of us should be very scared that your dependence on money to access water, which is water is life. So if they commercialize it and you're not rich, you're not generational wealth rich, you are in trouble.
So this is what I'm understanding. You need the money to drink water. You need the money to take a shower. You need the money to cook.
I think that's too big. You need money to drink water. That means, and most of us are living
will be
luxury. So water will
be... call them secondary rights, right?
Yes. So water will be... I don't know how to put it, but water will be too expensive. You see, you remember when Safaricom was doing a campaign on Okwa, Kenya in Turkana?
Oh my God.
Do you think their priorities were on hygiene when it came to water? No. So that is exactly what we will be doing. And when the private companies come in without good